Today we ask a question many people struggle with. Is this a spiritual awakening, or is reality breaking down? Have you ever looked at the world, at your life, and felt a profound, unsettling shift? Like the very fabric of reality, the rules, the explanations, the certainty started to fray right before your eyes. It's a strange sensation. For some, it's described as a spiritual awakening. For others, it feels more like an existential crisis, or even a bizarre reality glitch. Everything you once believed becomes questionable. Maybe you've noticed it in small ways at first. The narratives you were fed about success, happiness, or how the world works, they suddenly feel hollow. Or perhaps it's bigger than that. Time feels different. Synchronicities pile up. The coincidences become too frequent to dismiss. You start questioning if what you're seeing is even real. In this video, we're not here for easy answers or definitive truths. We're here to explore that feeling, to ask, is what you're experiencing truly a spiritual awakening, or is something deeper, something fundamental, actually breaking down? Let's dive into the unsettling possibilities together. Let's start with the lens most people first reach for when reality begins to shift, the spiritual awakening. If you've felt this, you know it. It's not just about reading a book or having a nice meditation session. It's visceral, it's disruptive, it turns your entire world upside down. Spiritual awakening symptoms often include a profound sense of inner change, like you're becoming someone else, or perhaps finally becoming yourself. Your priorities shift. Things that used to matter, status, material success, what others think, they start to feel trivial, even meaningless. You might feel more connected to others or to nature, not in some abstract way, but genuinely connected, like you can sense the aliveness in everything around you. There's an expansion happening, a consciousness expansion, where the boundaries between you and everything else start to blur. Intuition sharpens. You just know things without knowing how you know them. And there's this pull, this deep, magnetic pull toward meaning, toward truth, toward something bigger than the mundane routines you've been living. Traditionally, this is seen as a positive evolution, a step forward in personal transformation. Many spiritual traditions describe it as connecting to your higher self, to universal consciousness, to God, Source, whatever name feels right to you. And here's the thing, for many people, despite the upheaval, there is an initial sense of peace that comes with this, a sense of coming home, of finally seeing through the illusion and touching something real, something eternal. But here's where it gets complicated, because while you're experiencing this profound opening, you're also watching the world you knew fall apart. Now, let's look at the other side, the darker, more disorienting side. What if this isn't about awakening to something higher? What if reality itself is actually breaking down? This perspective feels different. It doesn't come with that sense of peace or purpose. Instead, it brings disorientation, confusion, a creeping sense that the system's holding everything together, social, political, even the laws of cause and effect, are no longer making sense. You look at the news, at society, at the people around you, and it all feels increasingly absurd, like you're watching a script that's gone off the rails and no one else seems to notice. Or maybe they do, but everyone's pretending it's fine. Things feel stranger, more chaotic. Events don't unfold the way they should. The coincidences, or what used to be coincidences, pile up so high that you start wondering if there's a pattern, if there's a glitch in the code. And here's the deep, unsettling question that creeps in. Is reality real? This is where we enter territory that used to be reserved for science fiction, but is now increasingly discussed by physicists, philosophers, and everyday people who felt this shift. Simulation theory, the idea that we might be living in some kind of programmed reality, is no longer fringe. Serious thinkers from Elon Musk to Nick Bostrom have pointed out that if it's possible to create simulated realities, then statistically, we're more likely to be in one than not. Quantum physics has opened doors to even stranger ideas. The observer effect suggests that reality at the quantum level doesn't exist in a definite state until it's observed, which raises the question, is reality created by consciousness? Are we generating this experience moment by moment? And then there's the multiverse theory, the possibility that infinite parallel realities exist simultaneously. And maybe, just maybe, we're starting to sense the bleed-through, the timelines merging, the Mandela effects that make us question our own memories. Some call it breaking the matrix. The moment you realize the rules you were taught were just rules, not laws, not truths, just a game someone else designed. This perspective, it's deeply unsettling. It can lead to anxiety, alienation, a sense of being unmoored from everything you once trusted. Because if reality isn't solid, if it's malleable, breakable, or even artificial, then what can you hold on to? So here we are, two perspectives, two very different experiences. Or are they? What if I told you that they might not be mutually exclusive? What if the breakdown is the awakening? Think about it. Every spiritual tradition has a moment of dissolution, the dark night of the soul, the ego death, the shattering of illusion. You can't reach enlightenment without first dismantling everything you thought you knew. Maybe that's what's happening on a collective level right now. Maybe the reality glitch you're experiencing isn't a malfunction, it's a revelation. The breakdown of the old programming is making space for something new, something truer. Because here's the thing about perception, it shapes everything. Our perception doesn't just interpret reality, it actively participates in creating it. Change your perception, and reality shifts. Not metaphorically, actually shifts. This is where the nature of reality becomes deeply philosophical. Ancient wisdom traditions have been saying this for millennia. From Buddhism's concept of Maya, the illusion of the material world, to the Hermetic principle, all is mind, the idea that consciousness is the fundamental substance of reality. And modern science, particularly quantum mechanics, is starting to echo these ancient truths. The observer effect isn't just about particles in a lab. It's a window into how consciousness and reality are entangled, how awareness itself shapes what manifests. So, when you talk about the power of the mind, you're not just talking about positive thinking. You're talking about something far more profound. You're talking about the possibility that mind, consciousness, is the architect of experience. This is where my own journey comes in. The moment when the explanations I was given about life, about success, about how things work, they stopped working. They didn't just fail, they revealed themselves as incomplete, as stories we told ourselves to feel safe. And that moment, that's the common ground. Whether you call it a spiritual awakening or a reality breakdown, the experience is the same. You've stepped outside the narrative. You're seeing behind the curtain, and you can't unsee it. This is metaphysics in action, not as abstract philosophy, but as lived experience. The moment when the material world reveals its fluidity, its responsiveness to consciousness, its dreamlike quality. And yes, it's unsettling. But it's also liberating. Because if reality isn't fixed, if it's a field of infinite potential shaped by consciousness, then you're not a victim of circumstance. You're a participant, a co-creator. But let's go even deeper. What if both perspectives are true simultaneously? What if reality is breaking down? The old structures, the old matrix, the old programming. And that breakdown is precisely what allows for consciousness expansion. Think about a caterpillar in a chrysalis. Its entire body breaks down into a kind of biological soup before it reorganizes into a butterfly. From the caterpillar's perspective, if it had one, that would feel like annihilation, reality ending. But from a higher perspective, it's transformation. Maybe that's where we are, in the chrysalis, in the dissolution phase, where the old form has to completely break down before the new form can emerge. The ancient wisdom traditions understood this. The alchemists called it solve et coagula, dissolve and coagulate. Break down the old structure so something new can crystallize. And here's something else to consider. What if the very act of questioning reality changes it? There's a concept in quantum physics called the quantum Zeno effect, where observing a system can actually freeze its evolution. But flip that around. What if questioning reality, observing it differently, unfreezes it, opens it up to new possibilities? When you start asking, is reality real? You're not just engaging in intellectual exercise. You're actively participating in reality's evolution. You're introducing uncertainty where there was certainty, possibility where there was fixed belief. This is why the inquiry itself matters more than the answer.
Because the moment you commit to one answer, it's definitely an awakening, or reality is definitely breaking down, you've closed the door. You've fixed reality into a single interpretation. But what if the truth is that it's both? What if it's neither? What if it's something so far beyond our current frameworks that we don't even have words for it yet? So where does that leave you? If we're not offering a definitive answer, what's the point? The point is this: you don't need certainty to move forward. You need honesty. If you're experiencing this shift, whether you call it awakening or breakdown, the most important thing you can do is stay present with it. Don't rush to label it. Don't force it into a box that makes you comfortable. Spiritual awakening symptoms and existential crisis symptoms can look identical. The key is how you respond. If you meet it with curiosity, with openness, with a willingness to not know, then it becomes an awakening, an expansion, a doorway. If you meet it with fear, with grasping for old certainties, with denial, then it becomes suffering, a breakdown in the most painful sense. Here's some practical wisdom. Ground yourself. When reality feels unstable, the most radical thing you can do is tend to your body. Walk in nature, feel your feet on the ground, eat real food, sleep. These aren't escapes, they're anchors. Journal. Write down what you're experiencing without trying to make sense of it. Let the confusion be confusion. Let the mystery be mysterious. Find others who are navigating this. Not to create an echo chamber, but to remember you're not alone. This experience, this feeling that reality is shifting, is happening to millions of people right now. You're part of something bigger. And most importantly, trust yourself. Your experience is valid, even if it doesn't fit into neat categories. Especially if it doesn't fit. Because here's the truth. We're in uncharted territory, collectively, individually. The old maps don't work anymore. We're drawing new ones as we go. And that's not a bug, that's the feature. So, is it a spiritual awakening, or is reality breaking down? Maybe the answer is yes. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's neither. Maybe it's something we haven't even conceived of yet. And maybe that's exactly the point. The value isn't in finding the answer. The value is in being willing to ask the question. In being brave enough to sit with uncertainty. In being honest enough to admit that the old explanations no longer work. Because that honesty, that's where real transformation begins. Not in the certainty of knowing, but in the courage of not knowing. This is the journey we're on together. Exploring consciousness, reality, the fundamental nature of existence, not as distant philosophical concepts, but as lived, visceral experience. So I want to ask you, what do you think? Is it an awakening, a breakdown, or something else entirely? Have you felt this shift? Are you experiencing things that don't fit into the old paradigm? Share your experiences in the comments below. This conversation doesn't end here, it's just beginning. And if you want to continue this exploration with me, diving deeper into questions about consciousness, reality, ancient wisdom, and the honest, sometimes uncomfortable search for truth, subscribe. Join this community of seekers who aren't satisfied with easy answers. Because we're living in extraordinary times. Times that demand extraordinary awareness. The only question left is, are you ready to see what's on the other side of certainty?